Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Love It or Shove It. So you either tuning in and you say, "Oh my God, I love everything what they are talking about," or you just say, "You know what? I'm just gonna walk away. I'm turning off that channel, and it's absolutely fine." Because that's the whole purpose of this talk show. It's you either love it or you shove it. And if this is the first time you're tuning in, hello. My name is Irina Portnova. I'm all about manifestation and how we can create something consciously. And I am here with my co-host, Bruno Gale. Bruno, would you like to say a couple of words?
Absolutely. Yes. So obviously, welcome everybody. Welcome CJ as well to our talk show today. Very excited to have you as a guest. So obviously, my name is Bruno. I do a lot of things. I'm a salesman. I work corporate, but at the same time, I do self-love coaching. I like to work more with women. Obviously, I believe that, one of the main key things for women is obviously their confidence and for them to know how to assert themselves in the world by making themselves good and not in a bad way. Addressing fears and conquering those fears by gaining confidence is something that most people a lot of times not end up doing. I know that when it was me, I wish I had the help. I didn't, and obviously, I'm really just here to help, and that's the whole point. As a coach, you're here to serve and you're here to help, right? So yeah, that's a bit about me.
All right, thank you so much. And of course, CJ is our guest on the show. And welcome, CJ. And just share a couple of words about yourself before we dive into the topic.
Well, thank you so much for having me on Love It or Shove It. What a fantastic name for a show. Who came up with that? Was that your own idea, Irina?
That was us together. We were just brainstorming. I came up with the idea, let's do the podcast together. And then we started to feel into like, what is the topic of and we realized that both of us are really craving something on love and relationship. And that's how everything started. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to live your life. Love it or shove it. Absolutely. Yeah. So just a little bit about me. I'm an ex-BBC journalist. I met my husband when I was in China. I was working there for China Radio International, and I had this fairy tale falling in love with this guy I met there. And we went back to America. We got married. We had 2 kids. I thought that we had a happy relationship. And then I found out that he was unfaithful. In fact, he had been unfaithful throughout the marriage. And it was a huge blow. And when the irony was, when he found out that I found out, he offered me a part-time wife position. And he said, "Oh, I'd be perfectly happy spending half the week with her and half the week with you." I mean, in effect, saying that I could do all the services like taxes and organize the house and look after the kids, and she could provide the passion. Wow.
Yeah, totally, right? That's a good deal, huh?
Yes. But then, shortly after that, I got breast cancer for the second time. And I realized when I was going through chemo on my own that a part-time husband was not really going to work for me. And what was interesting was that I had always been writing books. I was helping him write his own books. But once this happened, I ended up writing my own books. They just came out of me. My first book about adultery, adulterer's wife, how to thrive whether you stay or not, came out of that. Because initially, when I first started it, I was considering staying, because a lot of people do stay with unfaithful partners. But I think that will only work if they give up the other woman or women, because it just doesn't work if you're sharing your relationship with multiple people. I don't think that works for a marriage. At least that's my view. Some people are into open marriages, but not
right,
me.
unless there is a mutual agreement.
Yes, and more often than not, it's pushed on one partner, and they just put up with it to have the crumbs rather than nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. So can you take us back a little bit? Because you know what, the same thing when I'm sharing about my divorce, like sometimes people listening to us and they feel like it was very easy for us because we kind of just brush it off. We're just going through that and it feels like, hey, it was just a fun ride, right? Can you just actually take us in that moment of time? What was something that really was on your mind, and how did you deal with that? Because again, this is a great topic because we haven't touched the topic on our show. So, CJ, you are the pioneer. Not that this topic is something that not too many people like really close to, but this is the first one that we are actually diving in. So take us a little bit back into that time in your life. What was going through your mind that once you were in that situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I felt like shit.
Mm.
I was in a deep, dark hole of devastation. There is no question that it just rocks your entire foundation. It makes you feel incredibly unattractive because here somebody has chosen somebody else. And in my case, she was half his age and way younger than me. So you feel incredibly old, incredibly unattractive. You think you're never going to date again. You think this is the end. You don't even know if you're going to have the house you live in because of the whole divorce procedure you might end up going through. It's a horrible, horrible feeling, and there's no avoiding it. But you have to put one foot in front of the other and look after your own self-interest. One thing that I found really important was not to make snap decisions, because you do not want to make a rush decision based on emotions rather than looking for your long-term best interest. That's the most important thing. A lot of women, they find out their husbands have been unfaithful. All they want to do is leave. Okay, you take everything. I'm just going to go. I'm just leaving. I can't stand this situation. Then they find out they have no money. They've got no place to live because they let everything go. You really have to take it slowly, think about what you really want, and think about this as an opportunity to make your life better than it was before. Infidelity is actually sometimes as much a symptom as a cause of a relationship breaking down. If somebody's unfaithful, that means that maybe the relationship was not working it certainly wasn't working the way you wanted it to be. So can you fix that relationship, or should you be moving on to have a better life without that person? And in my case, I wanted to get to the point where I was feeling complete in myself with or without a partner, because from that position you can have a better relationship rather than just desperately grabbing the next person you can find and being on a rebound and maybe going through the same traumas that you went through with the first person. So I think it's really important to just step back. Why am I making this decision? Is it just based on my anger or my emotions? Am I just trying to do revenge? Because revenge is really toxic and doesn't help you. The mantra of my book is that the best revenge is to get past the need for it.
I love that. I love that. Just, like raise yourself above that. Because again, it's just, like I always say that preserving our energy is the most important thing. So I wouldn't direct my energy on something that doesn't serve me. And you know what, CJ, I was just, quietly laughing as you shared that you said, like a lot of women just want to go and, like leave everything as is, because in United States, there are a lot of women who are doing the opposite. They are going to crash the cars. They are going to do wild things just to show that man that, like how dare they did what they did, right? So again, it could be like both extremes. So it's very important just to come to that middle where people are
Absolutely.
really, because emotions are really can overload everything, right? But the idea is we really have to sit down with the cold head and really start talking about what's important in life.
Yeah, I mean, one guy I heard of in Arizona, he was so mad with his wife for being unfaithful, he filled a car with cement. He was a contractor. He filled a car with cement. Well, it sounds like a funny thing to do. You can laugh at that. But then what happens when you need to sit down and agree on how you're going to manage your divorce, or how you're going to manage custody of the children, or who has the accounts and who has all the passwords to everything? It doesn't really work to to do that kind of stuff if you want to move on in a smooth, successful way. So you can think about it. Think about it. That's what I do with my my latest book that isn't out yet, The Cheating X-Files, 101 Gifts for Your Unfaithful Ex-Partner. It's about, weird things I found that, why don't you give this to your ex? Why don't you give that to your ex? But I'm not saying that you should. I'm saying you should just think about it, but and then move on. Think about it, laugh, and move on. Because if you start doing these things, you can never go back from them. Once you really make an idiot of yourself with some major revenge strategy, you can't go back from that. And you will always have a very, very adversarial relationship with your former partner. And let's think about it. If you marry somebody, there's got to be something good about them. You must have had some good times together. They're not really a demon. They don't just go from being an angel while you were with them to a demon once you find out about infidelity. It's the same person,
Right.
So you've just got to, and that doesn't condone, I'm not condoning the infidelity, but it's the same person. And you can't just go straight from loving somebody to wanting to sort of kill them. That doesn't, I mean, you may think that at the time, but it really, really doesn't serve you. Why not use all that energy to move forward to something better? And I know it's easy for me to say it now because I'm actually in that place.
Right.
But I knew that I couldn't stay in the place I was. It was not going to serve me. And I developed a sort of 6-part plan to get myself out of it, which I can tell you about if you'd like me to go through that. It's just a very simple thing that I did that helped me get over the trauma of infidelity.
Yeah, sure. Let's just hear a little bit, Bruno. I know that Bruno wasn't in the marriage yet, so I don't know how much he can contribute to the topic, but maybe just say, like your point of view.
Well, so when Irina presented me this topic, I was like, oh, oh God, like, because this is when you're talking about revenge, you're talking about hatred, you're talking about anger, and I was like, God, because if there is one thing I really despise is like cheating. That's like, yeah, just this. Like I couldn't cheat on a person. If I was to have something with somebody else, I'd break up with the person first, and then I do it, right? And as long as the breakup is official, then I could do whatever I want, right? But yeah, because it's like when you're actually cheating on somebody, it's like, okay, even if you're not in a marriage, let's say for example, not in a marriage, you have emotionally almost promised the person that you're going to stay with her or with him, and then you didn't. So you're breaking that, obviously you're breaking that entanglement with your partner, but you're breaking that entanglement with yourself, because you not only told the person you're going to be with her, you told yourself you're going to be with her or with him, right? So you break to her, to him, you break what you said to yourself as well. So it's a double-edged sword. It's not like, oh, okay, I'll do this to this person, and I'll leave it to the future for me to sort it out. You're doing it to yourself as well, right? And I figure that like sometimes a lot of people, like, they're not willing to go that far in their thoughts, meaning like, they're not willing to kind of reach that conclusion, right? But yeah, and so like I feel like loyalty is extremely important, because if you want to succeed as boyfriend and girlfriend, if you, for example, want to succeed like in a marriage, if you want to succeed with friendships, if you want to succeed in a business, there can't be any cheating. There can't be any betrayal. Like there can't be any like big lying. Something lying to a point where it actually influences a lot of other bigger things, right? Maybe small lies will happen here and there, and sometimes people don't lie, for a bad reason. Sometimes small little lies come as a form of protection, right? But obviously that's different. But when it comes to infidelity in relationships or marriages, it's just a no-go for me. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's something really pisses me off. Honestly, it really does, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't matter whether you're married or in a relationship. Obviously, you have a stronger commitment if you've agreed to be married. But, you know, and
Yeah.
especially in terms of sex, it's almost like you're involved in group sex because somebody's mind is not
Yeah.
really with you. And
Yeah.
it's just not the same thing. That degree of connection and intimacy is
Isn't
impacted. One partner is really partly involved with somebody else. It just
it?
doesn't, it's not the same thing. And especially in this world of STDs, STIs, and all kinds of
Yeah.
things like that, you can really get somebody in a mess. I remember somebody that I used to work with at one of the radio stations. His wife only found out that her husband was unfaithful when she got an STD, and then
Oh
everything
no.
came out. You know, I mean, so yeah, there are so many implications for this. And as I said, though, sometimes it is a symptom rather than a cause. And so you need to look into what's in that, whether something is wrong in the relation, fundamentally wrong in that relationship anyway. And therefore, it is better for you to move on rather than try to fix the situation. But for me, what I needed to get over this was to find confidants and mentors that I could talk to. Because and these aren't necessarily the same as friends, because your friends may not want to hear your deep, dark thoughts and how depressed you are. They may not want to be blasted with all that negativity, but a mentor can maybe hear it and steer you onto a better path. But you do also need to cultivate friends old and new, because when you are in a very long-term, say, relationship or a marriage, you tend to let a lot of your friends go, and your main friend, your best friend, is your partner. So what happens if your partner is unfaithful and is moving away from you? Well, then you have no friends. You've got to have friends. You've got to cultivate a community so that you don't feel so isolated. But one big thing for me was laughter therapy, because that was the one thing that got me out of depression. I stopped watching the news. It was too depressing. I didn't watch depressing movies. I just watched comedies, and I tried to find things that would make me laugh, because laughter brings you out of your sadness. Don't laugh, you cry. So you might as well laugh.
I love
Yeah,
that.
laughter cures a lot. So, like for example, it's like this came to me just now. I was listening to what CJ was saying, and 100% agree with what you're saying. It's like people either are a lesson, or they're a blessing, right? And the reality is that I don't want to sound negative, but I figure that for the people that are the most upgraded, that have suffered, whatever connotation you want to use, of evolution, right? So people that have suffered the most end up a lot of times becoming the ones who are the wisest, right? And so, yeah, sometimes most people will be a lesson, but then if in the end you are able to find your blessing, you got your blessing and you got all the blessings of the lessons. I mean, that's just the way I see it, because I remember back in the day, which it wasn't like that long ago because I'm young, right? But I remember like back in the day, it was very interesting, because I wouldn't see my problems as blessings. I'd see my problems as just for what they are, problems, and I wasn't learning anything with them, and I was just committing the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. And it was that like mentality switch that really helped me understand that maybe I can actually use this for my own betterment, and that's the whole point. If the universe wants to bless you, right, it's just not going to give it to you right away. You kind of gotta, I
You
believe,
have
earn
to
it.
upgrade yourself to receive the upgrade, in as a match. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you have to
basically.
get yourself in the position to do it. You have to love yourself. You do a lot about self-love, Bruno, but you have to learn to love your body. You need to treat it well, eat well, not just lying in bed watching television and spooning ice cream out of a the tub, which is the standard way they depict a woman when she's been left in movies, on television. You see somebody no, that's not going to make you very happy. You need to look after your body. You need to sleep well. You need to have exercise, because exercise is a wonderful tonic for depression. It's actually way more effective than antidepressants if you have exercise, especially outdoor exercise. And if you start doing exercise with friends and others, that sort of brings you up. You've got a community built at the same time as exercising. So there are all these things that are really good to bring you out of your adversity, to bring you out of the deep, dark hole you would feel when your relationship is collapsing on you. But it's also a wake-up call to find your passion and to live in the present, so that you actually are alive and not dead. Basically, you want to be doing what really turns you on. Why has this happened to you? You are being told, what is my real path? What makes my heart sing? Think about that. That's really what you want to do, because your heart definitely wasn't singing in this relationship with this unfaithful person. So these are the things that at least I found very helpful to try to get into a completely different mindset and move on from what probably was a very dysfunctional relationship anyway that I was best out of.
Yeah.
So, CJ, do you want to give a couple of tips? Like you mentioned, that you have something to share.
Yeah, I mean, I have the 4-part, the 6-part plan, and also I've mentioned some of the 6-part plan. Let me just give you that very briefly. Number 1, find confidants and mentors. Number 2, cultivate friends, old and new. Number 3, laughter therapy. Number 4, love your body. Number 5, find your passion. And number 6, mindfulness, live in the present. So, I mean, you can be going to a wonderful event, beautiful event, fabulous people, and your mind's thinking about how awful your guy was and how and I feel so bad if I did this. And so you're not in the present. You're not enjoying what's in front of you. You're churning the past in your head. So mindfulness exercises can be very, very helpful to learn to get out of your head, get into the present, and look at what's in front of you and enjoy what's in front of you. Wake up, smell the roses, as they say.
I love that. Yes. And just stay present, right? And just be grateful for everything. Like I always say.
Gratitude, because there are 4 keys too that are really important. Empathy. If you don't have empathy, even for that guy that betrayed you, I mean, not that you condone it, but you can't just think of him as a demon. You have to have empathy. You have to have gratitude for what you've already been able to have and what you plan to have in the future. Be grateful for the opportunity to plan a better future, and accept impermanence, because nothing lasts forever. Everything changes, but it changes for the better as well as for the worse. So you want to be on that ride to something better. And you have to sort of cultivate, I mean, this is something that came out of maybe Tibetan Buddhism, a neutral attitude to obstacles. If you hate the obstacle, if you have all this emotion about the obstacle, about something bad that's happened in your life, you don't get past it to enjoy what's beyond that obstacle. So those are some things that I found to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And again, everybody has to find the way that works for them, right? And I know that there are different stages that everybody goes through with that experience, but it's all about not losing yourself, but more to find yourself, right? So basically, we have to lose ourselves in order to find ourselves, right? But another version of ourselves, like really dig in deeper and really find something, discover something that we haven't known about ourselves. And through an entire experience, we become stronger and more powerful.
That's so true. And I think that the question you have to ask yourself when you're going through the throes of emotions, when something like this is happening, when you're having an unfaithful partner, is whatever you want to do, ask yourself the question, does this serve my long-term best interest? Step back, Does this serve my long-term best interest? Rather than sort of going off and doing stuff that you're going to regret later on.
That's absolutely true. So tell a little bit about your book on the infidelity.
Well, my first book was Adulterer's Wife, How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not. And it is a comic self-help book. So it's got cartoons. It's quite raunchy because, what is infidelity? It's about sex, you can't avoid the subject of sex in there. So, and how do you feel when somebody has betrayed you? You feel like shit. You're not going to be not wanting to curse. You will be cursing in your mind, not feeling good. But so it's comedy, but it looks at a number of different things. First of all, why it might have happened. Why did this happen? Were there some warning signs? What can you do? And some of the things that I mentioned are very, very helpful. But then there are also things you need to try to avoid to keep your life peaceful that I write about in the book. Don't drag your kids into a war zone. Don't be a harpy, but don't be a Stepford wife. Don't vent to everybody. Certainly not your people that you work with in the office. That may not be a good thing. Find a good mentor to tell them that your deepest, darkest feelings. But don't go off telling people. You need to have some degree of privacy so that you maintain your, you don't look like an idiot to everybody. You have to, because you're going to feel like your emotions are all over the place, but you have to sort of keep it together in the workplace and around the kids and those kinds of things. Also, there's this idea that you have to really criticize the other woman and compete with the other woman or man if it's a female partner that's being unfaithful. Don't get into that. Don't get into the competition. Don't get into the criticism. But also the spy versus spy thing. I found myself, looking at his phone, looking at all the texts, and you get sort of obsessed with all of that stuff for a while. And it's really bad. It's really negative. Don't go there. If you know he's unfaithful, you don't need to be reading all the texts saying how much he loves this other woman. That's not going to make you feel better.
Totally.
Use your energy to decide what to do next and
For
move.
yourself. Totally.
Yeah. And one thing I would say, though, if the guy is abusive, or even if the woman is abusive, because there are abusive women there, you don't want to stay. You want to find a safe exit from that relationship. That's that puts everything on a whole different level. But, a lot of people stay together just because they can't afford to divorce, which is kind of sad. But the two main reasons why marriages break up are infidelity and money. Those are the two main reasons. So it's never an easy thing, and divorce is never going to be easy because you're going to end up with, at best, half of what you have. And half is not as much as all of it, and that's why it's tough for a lot of people to even get their heads around that. But sometimes it's okay being separated and just living your own life as a separated person. Sometimes it really is much better to have it legally done in a divorce so that you've got a complete clean break, and that's it. But again, with divorce, you really want to try and make it as have as little acrimony as possible, because you can find that you don't want your partner to have all the money. Well, instead, you're going to give all the money to the lawyers. Isn't that a good solution?
I know. Yes, thank you so much. It was like such a great episode, and we would love to have you back. We are running out of time. And Bruno, would you like to say something quickly?
Yes, to be very quick. After infidelity, it's not a time for you to get in your shell. It's a time for you to actually grow your wings. I feel like that would stick. Remember that what you tell yourself sticks as well. So whatever you tell to the brain, it just becomes more real and more real and more real. And it's either more pleasurable or more painful, right? So doing what CJ said, absolutely agree with it. Get your stuff in order, move on with your life, and go after the fulfillment. Not even a happiness fulfillment, because fulfillment loss and happiness just goes. So
Mhm. Love it. Thank you so much. And CJ, we would be happy to see you back and check out the links for CJ. And everybody have a great time. And again, continue loving yourself more because there is so much more to life.